Choosing a profession can be the most daunting decision a player must make at the beginning of the Guild Wars 2 journey. My goal is to make that decision easier for you, by not only showing you every single spec for each of the 36 classes and subclasses in Guild Wars 2, but also explaining what makes them unique, giving a brief description of their kit and where they stand in the current meta. Disclaimer: you should choose the class you like, not what is currently broken, as that may change. I only included the current state of the meta to satisfy you meta slaves out there. There are 9 professions in Guild Wars 2 and each profession has 3 subclasses called elite specializations. Every weapon a class can use can also be used by every subclass, if you have the Secrets of the Obscure DLC. You can unlock all of the elite specializations by doing hero points in the expansion maps, or by doing some World vs World, which is one of the 3 game modes, along with structured PvP and, of course, player versus environment. World vs World is the open world PvP with big 50-person squads against another 50-player squad, capture keeps and towers. Lastly, there are 3 armor classes that all classes are divided into. Heavy are the soldier classes indicated by this symbol. Medium are the adventurer classes, and light are the scholar classes. Depending on the armor class, a profession will have a slightly higher or lower base defense, but in the grand scheme of things, it does not change too much. Let's jump straight into the first class. Let's start with the developer's poster child, the Guardian. They are selfless warriors who use light magic and physical attacks to deal damage and support their allies. Typically, they play as a direct damage dealer or burn applier, which is a damage over time condition. Of course, their second main role is full or hybrid support. The kit is very flexible and powerful in almost any situation. They can provide reflex, damage mitigation and even crowd control immunity to their ally, making the Guardian a pillar of both World vs World and PvE support. In addition, it has been a go-to for support and or damage for both PvP and PvE. So if you enjoy the class fantasy of a paladin or a priest, you have a character that can easily fill any role in any game. Despite its strange name, Dragonhunter is a fairly basic upgrade to Core Guardian. The virtues go from instant cast, low impact skills to short cast, high impact skills. For example, the F3 skill goes from a single block to a large wall in front of you that blocks for several seconds. Dragonhunter also gives you access to traps, which are area of effect skills that come in handy in many situations. Most importantly, Dragonhunter is known for its high damage output in all game modes. Nowadays it has been somewhat overshadowed by Willbender, another Guardian spec, but Dragonhunter is still very strong. However, if you are looking for a more supportive and less selfish Guardian subclass, you will enjoy the next one. Firebrands are the community's and developers' favorite when it comes to supporting gameplay. Firebrands focus on either dealing burning damage over time, full support, and healing, or a mixture of the two. They are extremely versatile as they gain access to tomes instead of their virtues, giving them an extra 15 skills to use. This makes them harder to learn but extremely powerful in almost all situations and game modes. It is and will always be the meta in World vs World as it provides superior stability and support in large squads like 50 vs 50. It is also very satisfying to carry your party by dealing with whatever mechanic a boss throws at you in PvE. Willbenders are the blue thieves of Guild Wars 2. Why is that? They trade their group support through their virtues for damaging movement abilities that synergize well with a fast-paced assassin playstyle. It is meta in any game mode, as the selfish damage builds with direct or damage over time are extremely potent in damage, while still having amazing utility and mobility. Perfect for a damage dealer in any situation. It is especially strong with the new Guardian Spear, which gives it even more mobility and even more self-heal. This currently makes it a menace in solo queue ranked PvP. If you want to keep up to date with which builds are currently a menace, why not subscribe to my channel? I would really appreciate it. But now on to my favorite class, at least as far as class fantasy is concerned. The Mesmer is by far the most unique class in Guild Wars 2. To my knowledge, no other game has this class design except Guild Wars 1. What makes it so unique? Mesmers use illusions, clones and phantasms to confuse, CC and even damage enemies. In addition, their use of mind magic makes them very hard to catch, as they can stealth and interrupt while evading, and even cast multiple skills at once, as most of their utility skills are instant casts. By shattering previously created illusions, they can burst you with direct damage or a special damage over time condition that reflects damage to the enemy when they cast skills. It is also very supportive by nature, as almost all utility skills also affect allies. Mesmers have probably the best upgrades to their subclasses, which is why almost no one plays vanilla Mesmers anymore. Chronomancers can control time. Sounds like a powerful ability, and it is. It is also a bit complicated for new players, but it is currently one of the best specs in all game modes because it is so versatile and will also support and damage rates. Why is that, you might ask? The reason is that you gain access to another shatter skill called Continuum Shift. This skill allows you to mark your position in space-time, and depending on how many clones you have used to shatter, you will get several seconds before you teleport back to that position. This is great because it also resets all your cooldowns and health to where you started. So if you can spam all your skills in the few seconds before you teleport back, you can use all those skills twice. Seems broken because it is. Just try it out if you are not too confused by this explanation. And if you want to see more in-depth explanation of this and many more builds for every game mode, be sure to check out my YouTube channel. Mirage has received more tweaks from the balance team than almost any other spec. This is because the Mirage class mechanic changes the dodge. You can now dodge while casting. This makes it the most annoying spec to fight in many people's eyes. It also has some amazing condition or direct damage bursts, making it one of the best specs to play as a roamer in high-level PvP at the moment. It is also pretty decent in PvE, whereas in World vs World it is just used to roam and gank people. It has a fast-paced and very unique playstyle that really suits the fantasy of the Mesmer class, and is well worth learning in my opinion. Virtuoso is the opposite of Mirage, as it sacrifices the instant cast Shatter and Clones for access to illusionary daggers that can be thrown at the enemy from long range. This makes Virtuoso a primary damage dealer with not much support, but a lot of selfish defenses baked into the kit. This makes it really good as a roamer in competitive modes. In PvE it has been one of the two best damage dealers for hard fights and progression runs since its release, because it is such a safe yet strong pick. For a new player, this is an ideal pick to jump into the world of Tyria and learn the mechanics without too much stress. By the way, if you want to know what mistakes you should avoid as a new player, no matter which class you choose, check out the video in the top right hand corner. Link to the video is in the description too. Now you are probably furious that I'm babbling so much, so I'm going to continue and I might just have the spec for you. Do you want to raise the dead and control an army of undead minions, or corrupt the boons of your enemies while dealing amazing area of effect damage over time, or wield a deadly scythe to slash through your enemy's health bars? All this and more is available in the Necromancer class. Core class is built around your Death Shroud, an ability that changes your full hotbar with new skills and gives you a second health pool that you can switch into at will when you have collected enough health from killing foes. It is an extremely powerful class in all Guild Wars 2 content and game modes, with a focus on less mobility for the benefit of high damage and high tankiness, while being fairly easy to learn. Reapers in Guild Wars 2 are modifying their Death Shrouds to make them even more deadly by wielding a scythe. This gives them access to more melee damage and area of effect skills. They also gain new utilities, shouts, which gives them powerful effects on instant cast skills, making the Reaper much faster paced and more reactive than the core Necromancer. Reapers currently play in all game modes as a selfish damage dealer with direct damage or damage over time. It is a very powerful spec and shines even more with the right support in the party. Despite its name, Scourge is a community favorite, as it is carrying many squads in both PvE and World vs World. The reason for this is its incredible area of effect boon corruption and barrier, i.e. overhealing or shielding. It may lose access to the oh so powerful Necromancer Death Shroud, but the short cooldowns of the Sand Shade skills that replace it make up for it. It is focused on condition and or heal, while also being able to support your allies with powerful resurrection abilities. Even after multiple nerfs in both game modes, it is a garish pillar of World vs World squad gameplay in particular, and it is really fun and unique to play. In PvP on the other hand, you are grieving if you are trying to play it these days. Harbinger is the black sheep of the Necromancer elite specs, as it has access to a shroud without its pool of second life, which makes it much squishier. However, Harbingers do get access to cast speed increases and very powerful elixir skills, as well as decent mobility, which is very special for a Necro, as they are usually the Guild Wars 2 equivalent of snails. Harbinger is very fast in all situations and a very selfish but very damaging option for all game modes, with both direct damage and damage over time effects. It also works well with the new spear, which uses a lot of life stealing to boost the sustained healing of Harbingers. A warrior does not care about magic, a real warrior uses his weapons and physical strength to win a fight. Warriors are the masters of weapons in Guild Wars 2, as they can wield almost any of the 19 weapons in the game in both hands. This means, as a new player, you have the most variety when it comes to finding a build that works for you. Warriors are mostly melee focused and do not have many support skills, but they do a lot of damage and have the most crowd control skills in the game. So you can simply CC your opponents to death. They also get Adrenaline combo to charge up their very powerful weapon specific burst skills, such as kill shot with a rifle or bone crushing stun with a hammer. All in all, the warrior has a weapon and a playstyle for every situation. As the name Berserker suggests, you are an all-out brawler. You gain access to a new way of using Adrenaline to enter your Berserk form, which gives you various buffs and alters your burst skills to make them more powerful. In PvE you can either play as an extremely offensive supporter, or you can go all out and be one of the top melee damage dealers out there. It is very fast paced and very rewarding to play. In competitive modes, it is mainly used as an offensive damage dealer, or more commonly in PvP as a very durable damage over time duelist. With the recent buffs to the spec, it is in a decent position for all warrior fans out there, in all modes of play. Spellbreakers are, as the name suggests, warriors who specialize in countering magic. They do this by gaining access to a very powerful defensive and sometimes offensive skill called Full Counter. This skill blocks the next attack and delivers a powerful counter to punish the attacker. Spellbreakers are designed to be power damage dealers, able to strip enemies of buffs while punishing them with CC skills and powerful combos. In PvE, Spellbreakers are a good DPS build, while in World vs. World, they are often used as a utility machine to deal with the overwhelming buffs of the enemy team. In PvP, on the other hand, they are typically used as a duelist, who can deal with outnumbered situations very well. Sometimes you can even see a full support Spellbreaker. Either way, it is an easy spec to learn, but hard to master, and should satisfy warriors looking to break enemy spells. Bladesworn is the ultimate anime warrior spec, as you can port behind your enemy and shout, "Nothing personal, kid." All joking aside, Bladesworn gets a reworked Adrenaline mechanic that allows them to cast a very powerful and hard-hitting attack at the cost of being rooted to the spot while charging. There are 3 variations of this Dragon Trigger. You also lose your second weapon set and gain access to the Gun Saber, a sword with an integrated pistol, which makes for a powerful melee and ranged weapon. As you can imagine, being rooted is a death sentence in competitive modes, where the damage is simply too low to make it worthwhile. In PvE, however, it is one of the most bursty professions and can certainly carry the DPS of your group. It is a bit of a challenge for beginners and you will not get the numbers you want. If you enjoy anime role playing, go for it. Rangers are the natural warriors of Guild Wars 2. They rely primarily on their skills with ranged weapons, such as bows, but can also use a variety of melee weapons. They are also aided in battle by one of 100 pets. As a ranger you have some control over this AI pet, and you can pull off some neat combos with it. The ranger used to be one of the worst classes at launch, but now it is a very strong choice for all roles in PvE. In competitive modes, rangers are pretty good at niche roles, but they can't do everything. But let's take a look at the ranger subclasses, which change its gameplay massively. Druids focus on being close to nature in order to have greater access to the magic of the environment. This allows them to transform into celestial avatar form. In this form, they can provide a lot of support to their team with heals and boons, as well as a lot of soft and hard CC to harass opponents. In PvE, Druid has been one of the best, if not the best, healer since its release, due to its incredible flexibility to fill all the roles and the mechanics a fight might throw at you. In World vs. World, it is now a decent choice in almost the same role. In PvP, however, it tends to be used as a durable duelist, and while not always one of the best picks, it is still a decent one. If you like to heal your squad and be the mechanic maniac, this is the spec for you. Soulbeast can remove their pet. Yes, you heard that right. They can merge with it to remove the sometimes annoying AI and gain access to some of its stats, but more importantly some of its skills. This allows the Soulbeast to fill the DPS role perfectly, as they have one of the highest bursts in the game. They also make excellent roamers and even duelists in competitive modes, as they take matters into their own hands. There's also some team support in the kit, via stances, but it is not the best yet, and could be improved in the future. It is fast paced, yet easy to play, making it a very good choice to start with. Untamed is the opposite of Soulbeast, giving you even more control over your pet by giving you access to even more class specific keybinds. As such, Untamed is the hardest Ranger Elite spec to play, but also has the highest skill ceiling, at least in competitive modes. This means that it classically performs better in high level play. It can also play multiple roles in PvE, either full damage, full support or a hybrid. This makes it almost as versatile as the Druid. Untamed can also switch between 2 stances, one that gives the pet new abilities and one that allows you to use weapon specific ambush mechanics. It can easily turn a fight. If you like the challenge of learning something new and challenging and being rewarded for it, this spec is for you. Thieves are the assassins of Guild Wars 2. They use stealth, fast movement, and high mobility combined with powerful single target attacks to defeat the enemies. Because of this playstyle, they are ubiquitous and are very strong in most competitive play, except in large 50 vs 50 battles, where their impact is less. If you like to be selfish with no support for allies, but have very high DPS, this class is for you. Not only do Thieves have the highest stealth of any class, but they also have some deadly weapons in their arsenal. Not only can they attack in melee combat, but they can also attack from a distance with pistols, for instance. As a Daredevil, your Thief identity becomes even more focused on fast-paced and melee-oriented combat. You can change your dodge roll to break out of soft CC or deal damage on dodge while also getting a third dodge bar. This allows you to fill the selfish DPS role even better, as you are extremely squishy, but with the amount of dodges at your disposal, you are very hard to catch. Since their release, Daredevils have been a strong choice to fill the roamer role in both PvP and World vs World. In PvE, however, Daredevils deal high damage but provide no support, so they are used as a pure DPS. If you enjoy a fast-paced, high-risk, high-reward style of play, this subclass is for you. Deadeyes are the opposite of Daredevils in that they are still squishy and deal a lot of damage, but tend to do so at range with a rival or in slower-paced melee combat. This also allows them to buff themselves and their allies, giving up some of the mobility of a Daredevil. In competitive modes, these two specs often alternate in the meta, as they perform almost identical roles. PvE, Deadeye is currently one of the highest DPSs, but it is a bit difficult to play, and as is typical for a Thief, support is mediocre. However, if you enjoy thieving and still want some support, take a look at the next spec. Specters are mostly damage over time focused Thief, that can also play a full support role, or a hybrid. How do they do this, you may ask? It's simple, they gain access to a Shadow Shroud that can act as a second health pool, making them tankiest Thief spec. It also changes your equipped skills, allowing you to not only deal heavy damage, but also support your allies with shields and other sweet buffs. This comes at the cost of lower DPS and a slightly different playstyle. For this reason, it is a rather underrated and underused spec, as being a support Thief is not everyone's favorite. But if it sounds like something you might like, give it a try. The Elementalist is the classic mage fantasy, able to control all 4 elements at will. Fire provides mighty damage skills, while water provides rejuvenating healing. Air provides shocking crowd control, and earth strengthens defenses. All of these are always present on any weapon you choose, giving an Elementalist 20 weapon skills. This is the reason why a lot of veterans would not recommend starting on Ele, but I disagree. It is very strong at the moment, and if you want to play as a mage, you may have to read a few more skills at first, but the learning curve is not that steep. So if you want to play a fearsome ranged spear damage dealer or a melee support Elementalist, this is the class for you. Tempests can overload their attunements to increase the aforementioned elemental properties, such as healing on the water attunement. This provides a powerful healing and boon application, at the cost of a fairly long cast time and an increased elemental switch cooldown. However, if you want to get over these drawbacks, Tempest has a lot of synergy with its own trait lines, especially in the relation to auras. These are temporary buffs that have different effects depending on the element, and you can even share them with your allies. This makes Tempest a really good support in all game modes. In addition, you can now choose to use a fairly easy to play full DPS Tempest in PvE. Tempest is a lot of fun to play and can fill the classic healing mage role the best. Weavers are the selfish DPS specs. They have almost no ability to buff their allies, nor do they have to, as they are designed to be a brawlery duelist. It is by far the hardest Elementalist spec to learn, as you now have access to dual attunement. So for instance, your first 2 skills are fire and your last 2 are water. The third skill is dependent on a mix of weapon and attunement, so if you have fire and water, for example, you will get a steam inspired one. So they are always a mixture of the 2 attuned elements. This gives Weavers even more skills to use and master than regular Elementalists. Weavers are really hard to master, and unfortunately they are not in a good position in all game modes because they just do not give enough value for the difficulty of learning them. I hope this changes with the upcoming rebalancing though, because it's such a good design and so much fun to play. Catalyst is a core Elementalist with an extra skill, Jade Sphere. It is an instant cast, attune dependent combo field that gives you and your allies some sweet boons. It also has a trait that makes it easy to get the aforementioned auras and buff yourself very effectively. It is very easy to get into and very good in all game modes. It can fill the role of damage and offensive support in PvE, the role of duelist in PvP, and the backline for a large-scale 50 vs 50 world vs world fight. There should be something for every Elementalist out there. The Revenant is the latest class to be released in the game. It comes with a unique set of skills for your right side. You can't choose which ones you have. You can only choose a full set called Legends. These Legends are important characters from the past or present that you can call upon for help. You also have Energy, which you have to manage to keep from draining your mental summoning power and losing your ability to cast skills. Many very powerful Revenant skills use this Energy as an upkeep skill, which adds to the uniqueness of Revenants. This makes Revenants less flexible in builds, but often more powerful to compensate. In all game modes, Revenants are in almost every squad. It may take a bit longer to learn than, say, a warrior, but the rewards can be greater. Now for the elite specs. Herald is strictly an upgrade to the core Revenant, as it gives you access to your Facet of Nature skill, which gives you and your allies unique buffs depending on the legend you have. In addition, you can now channel Glint, a very powerful dragon stance, that not only has amazing group buffs, but also gives you one of the most useful healing skills in the game, as it is a damage inversion. Herald is one of the best supports in PvE, and is currently the best high-level PvP hybrid build, and is in almost every match. You can play Herald as a direct damage dealer, damage over time damage dealer, full support or hybrid support. It is easy to pick up and hard to master. Perfect to start your journey with. Renegades can summon their warband as a legend, utility spirits that can aid you and your allies in battle. It also has the ability to permanently grant alacrity, a very powerful boon decreasing cooldowns with just one button. In PvE it is quite decent for that, but is generally played more for its damage. In the competitive game modes it is not as strong, but it can certainly work. For a new player it is a bit more punishing than the Herald, as it has a higher energy cost and therefore requires more knowledge of energy management. Vindicator alters its dodge and can jump high into the air, either supporting its allies or dealing high damage when it lands. Depending on the choice, he is either a full melee damage dealer or a full support healer. Both playstyles work well, but the support variant is more useful in competitive modes, and the DPS variant is superior in PvE. It is very fun to use and not too hard to learn, but hard to master. So it can be a very valid choice for a new player wanting to roleplay as a Dragoon. As in the real world, engineers are considered one of the hardest professions to learn. In Guild Wars 2 this is because not only do they not swap weapons in combat, but they also have access to a variety of kits as utility skills. Each kit gives you 5 new weapon skills while you use it. If you have 4 kits, that makes 20 extra weapon skills. Of course you don't have to use these kits, as there are other engineering skills available. Engineers use technology to overwhelm their opponents, so they have access to a fairly limited weapon pool, but it covers ranged, melee and direct or damage over time damage. You can also use toolbelt skills depending on the utility skills they have equipped. Used in all game modes, Engineer is one of the most flexible professions in the game, but is currently weak in PvP. However, they excel in large-scale 50 vs 50 battles and can easily fill all the roles in PvE, where they are, with a few exceptions, very easy to play. Scrapper loses a toolbelt skill to make room for a function gyro. It can finish off downed players and revive allies. Pretty handy, isn't it? In PvE, the Scrapper can also bring cast speed buffs to his party and still deal a fair amount of direct damage. But the most unique part of the Scrapper is its high access to super speed, a buff that lets you run around at almost the speed of light. This makes the Scrapper a very good choice in World vs World as a support and a decent choice in PvP as a roamer. It is fast and uses the grenade kit in most builds in all game modes, as it allows for heavy damage from range. Holosmiths also lose a toolbelt skill, but gain access to a brand new weapon, the Holoforge. It provides the player with very powerful weapon skills for limited time, as each of them charges your heat level. If you overheat, you will damage yourself and lose access to the Holoforge for a few moments. This makes the spec very selfish, with a lot of burst and damage. It is typically played as a pure DPS in PvE and as a roamer in competitive game modes. If you like fancy animations and flashy explosions, this is the spec for you. Last but not least, Mechanist is a community favorite. After all, who wouldn't want to be carried by an AI? So what is it? Imagine if an engineer and a ranger had a child. Mechanist would be it. You lose all your toolbelt skills and trade for a mech pet, which you can heavily customize via your trades. This spec is really easy to play, as it puts a lot of your agency on the AI pet. This makes it a very good choice to start with. It is also quite strong in PvE. The competitive modes, however, it's pretty bad, because you can't control your mech enough and it just randomly dies in World vs World. In PvE, however, it is really flexible and useful, especially as a beginner. So if you are an engineer at heart, this would be my recommended starting choice. Amazing, you made it through. Thank you for watching. I hope it was not too much information at once, and you are now able to decide which class and subclass you want to go for. If you found this video helpful, why not leave a like, to help spread the word to more new players. And while you are down there, hit the sub button to get all the latest and greatest Guild Wars 2 guides and news for new players and veterans alike. Hope to see you in the next video or on one of my streams.